People are saying that the most important person in this election is Jerome Powell.
Well, he's been certainly the most important person in this crisis, going back to the early days in March and April when the Fed pulled out its old playbook, refreshed it, and then really delivered a very strong signal that it was going to make sure markets were stable, make sure that there was plenty of liquidity in the system. And that message has only grown stronger over time. So I think that may be the most important piece of the puzzle in terms of looking at next year, and that looks unlikely to change.
Although at the same time, Chris, it's interesting to watch the market action the last few weeks to see bond yields moving up as investors are apparently sniffing out, this Biden, the prospect of a Biden win, maybe even a blue wave. Does that tell you the limits of what investors think the Fed can do here? Or else why would interest rates be so sensitive to this outcome and the prospect for a large stimulus package?
I think investors are looking for the fiscal leg to finally kick in. We've been waiting since July, arguably, for a deal to be done. I think for all of the uncertainty around this election, it's kind of weird, frankly, to see polls that are really quite clear about the outcome and markets still very uncertain for some understandable reasons. But I think even if you look through the possibility for some delays in results, for some contested results, in either outcome, you will have a president who will be pushing for more stimulus, and you will have a Congress more or less ready to provide it. There are different ways where you can count on a bigger package or a smaller package. I think if you have a Republican Senate and a Democratic president, that sets you up for a slightly smaller package. But overwhelmingly, this is a market and an economy driven by COVID, and those numbers have been getting worse. And I think that leads you to believe that we will be getting that package at least by January or February, if not sooner.
Libby, I want to pick up on that and ask you, is there any chance you think we could get a COVID package during the lame duck session, especially as the outbreak worsens?
Yeah, well, good afternoon, Kelly. I really think that in terms of the potential of a COVID relief package in the lame duck, it really depends on the election result. If we get a status quo election, President Trump gets reelected and the composition of Congress stays the same, then yes, there is actually a good chance we could see some movement in the lame duck session. If, however, we get Joe Biden to win the White House, and then we have a Democratic sweep, then it is very likely that we won't see action until January. So again, very dependent on the election outcome. But if Joe Biden wins and there's Democratic sweep in Congress, probably we won't see that until that kind of January, February timeframe.
That was a very suave silencing of the phone there, Libby. I'm impressed. Chris, let me turn back to you. Same question. What are the odds we get some kind of stimulus package? And so those seem to be the big swing factors. We've talked about the Fed. We've talked about the stimulus package. I guess tax policy would be the next thing that looms. But would that still be a ways away, do you think?
Well, I think a major tax package is going to wait until the new Congress is settled and up and running and the committees get their legislative pens to work. But I think, we will certainly get the package that's been on the table for the last few months. That ought to get passed. Pretty quickly. But I think, again, what will drive a lot of that is the news around COVID cases, COVID mortality, restrictions coming in certain jurisdictions. And importantly, by the way, we've got a big jobs number coming out on Friday, and to the extent that number doesn't go down as expected in the 7.5% range, that I think is going to drive all the more eagerness to get some money out the door.
Yeah, Libby, what are you telling people about tax policy?
Yeah, well, look, I think that if Democrats were to take back Washington, their priorities will be COVID relief and health care. And then likely they will move their focus to an infrastructure bill and potentially pay for some of that with some tax increases. But we really think that a tax bill is really a 2022 story. Even if tax changes are passed in 2021, they will unlikely be retroactive, meaning that they will not hurt the economy or impact the economy until 2022. So we really believe that a focus of Democratic Washington will be trying to get the economy on firm footing, and then trying to figure out how to pay for it. But again, probably more of a 2022 story than a 2021 story.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.